My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 38 years old, and for the past 12 years, I've been married to Olivia, Liv, as I call her. We have a comfortable life in the suburbs, a nice two-story house with a backyard, and what I thought was a strong marriage. We don't have kids, but we have a dog, Cooper, who's basically our child in every way that matters. Life was good. Simple. Steady. I work as a project manager for a construction firm, and Olivia is an interior designer. We met when she was hired to stage a house for one of my company's builds, and I fell for her instantly. She was different. Confident, funny, effortlessly beautiful. While other women played coy, Liv was direct. She told me she liked me, gave me her number, and didn't wait around for me to make the first move. That was Olivia, always in control. For the most part, our marriage worked. We had our ups and downs, like any couple, but we always found our way back to each other. At least, that's what I thought. Looking back now, I see the cracks. The little moments I dismissed. The things I should have paid more attention to. It started subtly. A few months ago, Olivia began working longer hours. She claimed she was taking on bigger projects, more demanding clients. I was proud of her, she'd always been ambitious. But something felt off. She'd get home late, and instead of the usual tired but happy energy she used to have, she seemed distant. Detached. At first, I chalked it up to stress. Work can do that to a person. But then the small inconsistencies started piling up. One night, she came home later than usual. I was on the couch, half asleep, Cooper curled up beside me. When she walked in, she smelled different. Not like her usual perfume, but something more musky, something that wasn't hers. Long day? I asked, stretching. She hesitated for a fraction of a second before answering. Yeah. The client kept making changes at the last minute. It was exhausting. She kissed me on the forehead, something she'd started doing instead of kissing me on the lips, and went straight upstairs to shower. I remember staring at the staircase long after she disappeared, feeling a nagging pull in my gut. That was the first red flag. The second came 2 weeks later. Olivia's phone, which she was normally careless with, had suddenly become glued to her hand. She used to leave it on the counter, sometimes even forgetting where she placed it. Now, it was always face down, always within reach. One morning, as I was getting ready for work, she was in the shower, and her phone vibrated on the nightstand. A message popped up. I wasn't trying to snoop, but my eyes naturally flicked to the screen. Unknown number, last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. I felt my stomach drop. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a wrong number. Maybe it was from a client. Maybe I was lying to myself. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't mention it. Instead, I spent the entire day in a fog, my brain replaying every moment from the past few months, trying to find the moment when things started shifting. I thought about the nights she worked late. The times she was suddenly too tired for sex. The way she'd laugh at her phone, typing furiously, then quickly locking the screen when I walked by. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew better. And so, the storm began to brew. I should have trusted my gut. I should have confronted her that morning when I saw the message. Instead, I did what most people do when faced with the possibility of betrayal. I convinced myself it wasn't what it looked like. But doubt is a slow poison. It creeps into your thoughts, latching onto every inconsistency, every strange behavior, until you can't ignore it anymore. And when the truth finally hits, it doesn't tap you on the shoulder, it knocks you flat on your back. It happened on a Friday night. Olivia had told me she was going out for a quick drink with her coworkers to celebrate finishing a big project. Normally, I wouldn't have thought twice about it, but after weeks of strange behavior, I wasn't feeling so trusting. I won't be out late, she said, grabbing her purse. Don't wait up. Something about the way she said it made my skin crawl. She kissed me on the cheek, always the cheek now, and walked out the door, her heels clicking against the pavement. I sat on the couch, staring at the door long after it closed. My hands were clenched into fists. I don't know what came over me, but suddenly, I needed to know. I needed to stop pretending everything was fine. I grabbed my keys and followed her. I wasn't proud of it. I had never been the kind of guy to spy on my wife, but I wasn't dealing with the same Olivia anymore. I had to know the truth, no matter how much it would hurt. I parked a few blocks from the bar she had mentioned, an upscale place downtown. My heart was hammering as I walked toward the entrance. My plan was simple: just take a quick look, confirm she was with coworkers, and leave. But life doesn't work that cleanly. I spotted her immediately, but she wasn't with her coworkers. She was with him. A tall, well-dressed man with dark hair, sitting way too close to her in the dimly lit booth. They weren't just talking, they were laughing, touching. His hand brushed her thigh, and she didn't move away. In fact, she leaned in. My stomach twisted into a tight knot. I should have walked away. I should have turned around and left before I did something reckless. But I couldn't. I needed proof. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and took a picture. The grainy image on my screen was all the confirmation I needed. Olivia wasn't just pulling away from me, she had already left. I felt sick. I must have been standing there longer than I realized, because suddenly, Olivia's gaze shifted, and her eyes locked onto mine. For a moment, she looked like she had seen a ghost. Then, just as quickly, her expression hardened. She didn't look guilty. She looked angry. Like I was the one doing something wrong. I turned and walked out before she could say anything. My hands were clenched so tightly around my phone that my knuckles turned white. My breath came in short, ragged bursts. My entire world had just shattered, but I wasn't going to break, not yet. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. Every laugh we had shared, every promise we had made, it was all a lie. I replayed the past few months in my head, realizing how blind I had been. The late nights, the secrecy, the cold distance between us, it had been leading to this. When Olivia came home an hour later, I was waiting. She barely made it through the door before I spoke. "Who is he?" She froze. For a split second, I saw panic flicker in her eyes. Then, just as quickly, she smoothed her expression into something unreadable. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. "Don't lie to me, Liv." My voice was dangerously calm. "I saw you. I followed you. I watched you with him." Her mouth tightened. "So you're spying on me now?" "That's real mature, Daniel." I laughed bitterly. "You don't get to turn this around on me. Just tell me the truth." Silence. Then, finally, she exhaled and sat down, rubbing her temples like she was the one dealing with betrayal. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said. "But I haven't been happy, Daniel. I feel stuck. Trapped. And I met someone who..." "Stop." I held up a hand. "Just stop." I didn't need to hear the rest. She had already said enough. My wife, the woman I had loved, trusted, built a life with, had found someone else. And the worst part? She wasn't even sorry. I don't remember how long I sat there, staring at her, waiting for her to say something, anything that would make this nightmare make sense. But Olivia didn't look guilty. She didn't look sad or ashamed. She looked relieved. Like she had been waiting for this moment, waiting to finally drop the act and unburden herself of the lie she had been carrying. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. "How long?" She sighed, rubbing her temple again like she was the one suffering. "Daniel. How long?" My voice was sharper this time, cutting through the tension like a blade. "A few months." I laughed bitterly. "A few months?" I repeated, shaking my head. "And what, you just forgot to mention it?" Her eyes flickered with something close to annoyance. "It wasn't like that." "Then tell me," I snapped, leaning forward. "Tell me exactly what it was like, Liv. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks pretty fucking clear." She hesitated. I never planned for this to happen. Oh, don't give me that bullshit, I spat. People don't accidentally cheat, Olivia. You made a choice. Over and over again. Silence stretched between us. She didn't deny it. Didn't even try. The walls of our marriage, the life I had built with her, were collapsing, brick by brick, and she just sat there, watching them fall. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Who is he? She hesitated just long enough for me to know she didn't want to tell me. You don't know him, she finally said. Try me. She sighed. His name is Adam. I racked my brain, trying to place the name, but it didn't click. Where'd you meet him? She shifted uncomfortably. Through work. Of course. Of course it was work. The late nights, the secrecy, the sudden distance, it all made sense now. I forced myself to breathe. So what now? I asked. Was this just some fling? Are you done with him now that you've been caught, or were you planning to leave me? She looked away. And that told me everything. I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. You were actually going to do it, I murmured, the realization hitting me like a truck. You were going to leave me. She didn't answer. Jesus Christ, Liv, I whispered, running a hand through my hair. I gave you everything. I loved you. I trusted you. And you were just going to. I cut myself off before the anger took over completely. I wasn't trying to hurt you, Daniel, she said softly. I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Well, congratulations, I said. Because you fucking did. For the first time, I saw something crack in her expression. A flicker of something, remorse? Guilt? I didn't know. And frankly, I didn't care. I stood up. Her eyes widened slightly. Where are you going? Away from you. Daniel, wait. I ignored her, grabbed my keys, and walked out the door. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't be there, in that house, with her. Not after this. Not ever again. I don't remember much of the drive. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, my jaw clenched so hard it felt like my teeth might crack. The anger, the pain, the sheer humiliation of it all, I needed to get out before I did something I couldn't take back. I ended up at my best friend Ryan's place. He opened the door in his sweatpants, holding a beer, and immediately frowned. Jesus, man. You look like shit. She cheated, I said flatly. Ryan didn't ask who. He knew. His eyes darkened, and without a word, he stepped aside to let me in. For the next hour, I paced his living room, ranting about Olivia, about Adam, about how my entire fucking life had just been torched in one night. Ryan let me vent, let me curse, let me throw back 2 shots of whiskey before finally speaking. What are you gonna do? He asked. That was the real question, wasn't it? The rage in me wanted revenge. It wanted to burn Olivia's world down like she had burned mine. I imagined exposing her to her friends, her family, her job. I could dig into this Adam guy, find out if he had a wife or girlfriend, ruin his life the way he had helped ruin mine. Hell, I even thought about showing up at his office and putting my fist through his face. But what then? I'd still be the guy whose wife cheated. And revenge wouldn't change that. I exhaled sharply, rubbing my temples. I don't know, I admitted. I just know I can't go back home. Ryan nodded. You're staying here. I didn't argue. I couldn't even process going back to that house, sleeping in the same bed where Olivia had probably been thinking about another man. That night, as I lay on Ryan's couch staring at the ceiling, I made my decision. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I wasn't going to beg Olivia to stay. And I sure as hell wasn't going to let her walk away from this unscathed. The next morning, I called a lawyer. If Olivia wanted to be with Adam, she could have him. But she wasn't going to get to walk away clean. Not after what she did to me. I wasn't ready to see her again, but I had to. 2 days after I walked out, I went back to the house, not because I wanted to, but because it was time to have the talk. Olivia had called and texted, but I ignored every message. I wasn't interested in hearing her excuses. I had already made up my mind. When I walked through the front door, she was sitting on the couch, looking like hell. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, eyes swollen from crying. A small part of me wanted to feel sorry for her. But then I remembered the way she had looked at him. The way she hadn't even denied it when I asked if she was leaving me. I set my lawyer's paperwork down on the coffee table. "Read it." Her breath hitched. You already filed?" "I did." My voice was cold, emotionless. "I want this over with as soon as possible." She swallowed hard. "Daniel, please. We need to talk." "No," I said sharply. "We don't. You already made your choice." She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "Daniel, I was confused." I laughed bitterly. "Confused? You weren't confused, Liv. You were fucking someone else behind my back. That's not confusion. That's a choice." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I never meant to hurt you." I clenched my fists. "You keep saying that like it means something. But you did hurt me. And you didn't stop. You chose to lie to me, to betray me. You threw this away. Not me." She wiped her eyes, her fingers shaking. "I don't love him," she whispered. I froze. "I don't love him, Daniel," she repeated. "I don't even know if I ever did. I felt trapped. Like we had settled into this routine, and I shook my head. "You should have talked to me, Olivia. Not fucked your way out of our marriage." Silence. She had no response. She knew I was right. Finally, she looked down at the papers, blinking back tears. "Do you really want this?" I stared at her, at the woman I had once loved more than anything. I thought about all the nights we had spent together, all the moments that had led to this. Then I thought about the lies. The betrayal. The way she had let another man take what was mine. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Yes," I said. "I do." Her face crumbled, but I didn't stay to watch. I turned and walked out, leaving Olivia and everything we had built behind. For good. The day the divorce was finalized, I felt nothing. No relief. No anger. No sense of victory. Just a hollow emptiness. I thought signing those papers would give me closure, but the truth is, there's no closure when the person you trusted most betrays you. There's no clean break, no magic moment when the pain just disappears. It lingers, like a wound that refuses to heal, reopening at the smallest reminder. For weeks, I went through the motions: work, sleep, repeat. I stayed at Ryan's place while I figured out my next move. The house had been put up for sale. Olivia and I agreed to split everything, but I refused to keep anything tied to us. She kept the furniture, the dishes, the memories. I walked away with my clothes, my truck, and my dignity. And Cooper. That was the one battle I refused to lose. Olivia tried to fight me on it, but I wouldn't budge. She could have Adam, but she wasn't taking my damn dog. I thought about revenge, about exposing her, ruining her life like she ruined mine. But what was the point? She had to live with her choices. That was enough. Or so I told myself. One night, a mutual friend told me that Olivia and Adam had already fallen apart. Apparently, Adam wasn't interested in being her escape anymore now that there were no secrets, no thrill of sneaking around. It should have made me feel better. It didn't. Because I still had to live with the fact that the woman I loved had been willing to throw everything away for nothing. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom: there's nowhere left to go but up. 6 months after the divorce, I packed up and moved to a new city. I got a promotion at work, started hitting the gym again, even forced myself to go out and meet new people. For the first time in years, I was living for me. Not for Olivia. Not for a marriage that had been dead long before I realized it. And maybe that was the real closure, not getting answers, not getting revenge, but realizing that I didn't need any of it. Olivia was my past. But my future? That was mine to rebuild. And this time, I wasn't looking back.